Profile share via email report story. Ochako Uraraka enjoyed reading. Being raised within a poor family, not many entertainment options were available. Her parents would often read to her stories of fantasy worlds beyond the stars, medieval times where kings and queens conquered countries. In a world with quirks, superheroes' stories became reality, so old school comics no longer piqued anyone's interest when you can go outside and see heroes fly overhead. Romance took a special place in her heart, although no boys ever caught her eye. She loved how happy endings concluded the best stories, leaving herself to her imagination with the epilogue. Yet, with several hours of training done in preparation towards the UA entrance exam, jogging to pick up a few more books before heading home would complete her afternoon. As she entered the library, she eagerly went towards the romance novels in the young adult section. Taking in a deep breath, she runs her fingers on the spine of each book, taking note of several she have already read. The smell of an old book was never something she could quite explain. Almost like a new car or a fresh pair of Jordans, it brought nostalgia and satisfaction to her heart. Let's see, he said. She said by Kwame Alexander. Read that before. The Sun is also a star. Great novel. The writing and perspectives made that book amazing. So glad they translated that to Japanese. Haven't read this. 1. Her trail of thoughts became very confused, as out of the corner of her eyes she noticed a young boy, around her age. His fluffy green hair laid atop a plain face, with a hoodie and sweatpants, yet that wasn't the issue. She hasn't seen him before. Normally she could point out the regulars, from the small children looking at picture books to the tired businessman redoing his resume for the 5th time. He didn't seem particularly interesting, across from a very blank expression. That's what she thought, until he started stripping. She felt the heat rising to her face, jaw dropping at the sight of him. When he took off his hoodie, rather than a skinny body, his chest and abs were nearly chiseled. Multiple scars aligned his body. Then, he took off his sweatpants, with black briefs showing how well endowed he was. Is this his quirk? Oh my god, what is he doing? It had to be his quirk, right? But how come she sees him? Alongside that, he didn't seem too invested in it. Like a mundane task, he waved his hands in front of others, citing in tables, and yet no one noticed or paid him any mind. He casually took a book out of someone's hand and placed it on the table, and watched as the person picked it back up with a confused expression. What's going on? She whispered it under her breath, but her voice carried towards him. He glanced in her direction, and received a full look of his freckles and sparkly green eyes. He tilted his head, then walked over towards the brunette. Her blush came back tenfold, as he hovered over her in silence. She walked backwards until her back was against the bookshelf, while he placed his forearm above her head, looking down at her. What in the world is happening right now? Why is he still practically naked? He's too close. I knew it. You can see me. For a moment, just one, Ochako watched a glimmer of hope flicker in his eyes, only for his expression to go back to before. Like his eyes, his attitude became jaded, and backed away from me. Forget what you saw, it's not worth the effort. Enjoy your life. He began walking away, and Ochako felt an urge she never felt before. Maybe it was the solemn expression he wore, the complete weird experience she just witnessed, but compulsively, she reached out and grabbed his wrist. A pink glow emitted from her fingertips, causing the boy's body to glow. That's weird. Wait, she felt her quirk activate, and the boy in underwear started to float. Oops, sorry, release. The boy came back down gently, smirking. Promoted stories. You'll also like Ghost Todoroki Shoto. 111K4K. Degree. Asterisk wait, are you from Ghostbusters? in which Todoroki Shoto grew up with a ghost Todoric. Izwocha one-shots, 32.7k 232. These are just one-shots about the wonderful ship Izwocha, probably no lemons or smuts, though I will include cursing, angst, fluff. VNHA one-shots, 27k 627. So, I made a one-shot book, cause I have so many ideas in my head that I'd be ashamed if I don't share them. I'll usually make one-shots from my own ideas, but if VNHA reacts to ships, 475k 6.5k, a ship reaction book. Starring Class A as wonderful little shits, Class B as equally wonderful little shits, and assorted others. As tired motherfuckers. Dis. Peppermint S. Todoroki. 86.3k 3.7k. Where a boy and a girl spend one night together. Todoroki X Fem. Reader, come on Pep. Trust me. 20.9k 336. Uraraka and Midoriya are strangers until fate pulls them together as third years during a near fatal mission. During this supposedly snowy and cheerful season, will Secker. How it all started. Deku x Uraraka. Und. 231k 2.9k. Midoriya x Uraraka. You have a floating quirk that could be useful for hero work. Go follow your dreams. He walked towards the entrance, grabbing his clothing and quickly changing. Hold on, who are you? The librarian shushed her, which made Ochako realize how loud she was talking. Don't worry, you'll forget anyways. It was nice to meet you though. The plain-faced boy pushed past the doors, gone within the crowd. At least that's what she thought, until the boy came crashing back through the doors, landing face first right beside her. Are you okay? Once again, she was hushed by the librarian, who paid no mind to the boy nor the doors that flew open. What the frick? He walked out the door again, and several seconds later, came right back beside her. He continued doing this several more times, with the recent one resulting in him laying on his back. Did the forecast talk about high-speed winds today? The librarian tapped away on her laptop, checking the weather without a single acknowledgement in their direction. I whispered to him, crouching beside him. You don't seem to be all right. Oh no, I just love looking at the ceiling. Never notice how it hung over us, pretty cool actually. Ochako could have gone without the sarcasm, feeling both confused and drained from the current events. You know what, I think I'll just leave. I'll grab my books another time. You do that. She left the library and soon after, the green boy was now on the concrete right beside her. He stood up, irritation completely on his face. All right, I'm done. He turned towards her, sighing. You drink coffee, son. She looked across the table from the boy, who looked nonchalantly at the menu. They made the basic introductions, as she discovered his name was Izuku Midoriya. After trying to walk away multiple times, they both realized that they couldn't go no further than a block away from each other. To be exact, Izuku couldn't be further than a block from her. He would just be dragged or repelled towards her. They stopped by a cafe and Ochako requested a table. Other than that, the silence between them made the entire interaction awkward. A waiter approached the table with a notepad. Are you still waiting on someone, ma'am? She glanced at the other seat, where Izuku looked very bored. You don't see him. The waiter glanced at the other seat, where Izuku stuck his tongue out and rolled his eyes, making faces. Ma'am, that chair is empty, are you feeling alright? Ochako blinked once, twice. Yeah, I'm fine, please bring me 2 hot chocolates please. One with cinnamon, both with marshmallows. Izuku watched the waiter jot down notes, and then walked towards the kitchen. You know Uraraka, You're going to look even more crazy the more you associate with me. Best to try and ignore me and move on. You can stop with the ignorance. Do you have an invisibility quirk? Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose, shaking his head. Answer my question first, please. What's the exact details of your quirk? Well, it's been titled Zero Gravity. With a touch of all 5 of my fingers, I can make anything weightless, and by pressing both my hands together, I can release it. However, if I float too much, my stomach gets queasy and it makes me barf. That's impressive. You should really think about getting into hero work. Okay, so that means that you have complete control on removing someone's gravity. That could go in so many different directions. It could work directly with magnetism, and it seems you have the basic control of limiting the flotation of certain objects at will. It could possibly have more effect on the universal gravitational force, breaking the theorem itself, because with quirks, the impossible become even more possible, not to mention the sheer telekinetic implementations if you concentrated even more in. Ochako snapped her fingers, breaking Izuku from his thoughts. He had murmured so long that their hot chocolate had arrived for about 5 minutes, and she was halfway through hers. Sorry, old habit, used to study heroes and quirks, so it's a bothersome insight I can't seem to shake. He went ahead and took a sip of the hot chocolate, enjoying the warmth and rich flavor. Although it wasn't close to his usual coffee. Not at all, that's actually incredible. I'm not too book smart, with formulas and all, though I've been learning on making more strategic decisions. Now, what's your quirk? He stopped mid gulp, a frown forming on his face. It's a bit complicated. Let's take a walk. You're getting odd looks from other customers. Indeed, many other individuals in separate booths was giving her weird looks, so she grabbed her cup and walked out, following Izuku. Sue, story time. He glanced at her, an almost smile creeping on his face. Well, it happened about 8 months ago. I was diagnosed quirkless, and everyone told me to give up on my dreams. Even my mother, though needless to say, she was much nicer on the topic. My childhood friends kept bullying me, telling me to commit suicide and beating me. I almost got killed by a slime monster, until my idol came by and saved me. The conversation took them to a nearby park, where they walked along a trail. The summer afternoon had a slight breeze, shaking the branches on both sides of them. Izuku stopped in front of Ochako, back facing her. I asked him, could I be a hero? He told me I couldn't, which was understandable. Even afterwards, when the slime monster escaped and I rushed in to help, I only got in the way, and chastised by those around me, and my idol never looked at me once. Turned his back on me. Those around me, even my friend, told me how stupid I was and refused to acknowledge my existence or help, turning away from me to focus on the true savior. Midoriya, Ochako murmured, but Izuku kept going. After that, I found the nearest bridge. I couldn't help myself. Suicide truly felt like the best option. I threw my backpack first, and then hopped off. As I fell, I asked that no one remembered me, that no one would save a worthless deku like me. Oh, Deku was the name my childhood friend gave me to belittle me, 'cause why not? Anyways, I woke up several hours later, bleeding, gashes and scars all over my body. I thought to myself, hey look, I'm such a failure I can't even commit suicide right. I'm going to find a building instead. I walked through the city for days on end. Everyone bumped into me, and no one noticed me until, surprise, surprise, my childhood friend and his lackeys were right in front of me. I saw his red eyes look directly at me, and for a brief moment, our eyes locked. But he couldn't see me, kept murmuring about how he thought he saw me. He turned to Ochako. eyes widening, seeing anger and tears in her eyes. How could they? That's disgusting and they shouldn't exist as human beings. Before she could continue, Izuku raised a hand. She went quiet, though her thoughts were nothing more than mass genocide. How could they hurt someone so badly? All because he was different. I tried calling his name, nothing happened. Went around asking those around me, but they couldn't see me. Went to the hospital and stole some supplies, and tried going home. I saw police officers talking with my mom, seeing her in tears. The officers told her while my name was in the system, nobody seemed to recollect his existence, and they found my bag near the river bank. My mom burst into tears and I hugged her, begging her to see me. My cries fell onto deaf ears, and soon, more and more people either forgot and chalked it up to being suicide. There were moments in the following month where my mom would look at my picture on the wall, acknowledge me, but soon forget. All the while, I stood behind her in the same room. Soon after, I left home. I named this quirk adolescence syndrome. It was a rumor that existed prior to quirks, about abnormal experiences during adolescence from sensitivity and instability. Some also rumored that it could have been a prelude to developing quirks. Nowadays, we call them quirk awakenings, going beyond our limit in life or death scenarios, so much so that anything can come true. He reached his hand over and wiped a tear that was falling on Ochako's face. Her face got slightly red, and realizing what he was doing, he snatched his hand back, a slight blush dusting his freckles. The question is how your quirk affects minds, and I have an idea. Let's hear it, Ochako stated, drying her eyes and taking a mental note to console this boy. She couldn't imagine losing her parents, having her family and friends slowly forget all about her. My quirk has gone through many strange effects lately, but the main one is similar to Schrodinger's cat, where people have to force themselves to acknowledge my existence but no one wants to anymore. I can't turn it off. I got what I wanted. But there have been moments where people have seen me before, thought those moments didn't last long. I'm not incorporeal. I can still interact with certain things and get hurt, although people will believe that other things influence the situation if it involves them. Ochako recalled him tampering with the person's book from earlier. I'm following you, mostly. Your quirk have a direct effect with gravity, so for those brief moments you saw me and grabbed me, your quirk must have intercepted mine's, since gravity is a unique force that applies to everything on this planet, besides the atmosphere itself. Although it could have to do with an emotional interaction that bought me temporarily in your vision, but the quirk prevents me from leaving your side as well, convincing me that you're constantly in a field of gravity, but it only activated when your hands touch something. Izuku felt his body get pulled forward until he was once again beside Ochako in the grass, face first. Sorry, you were talking too much again, you couldn't hear me through your constant murmuring, so I thought I could drag you out of your thoughts. She gently crouched down and offered him a hand. He grunted in disapproval, words muffling into grass. Did you just make a pun? Sweet all might, that was terrible. He reached out for her hand, and pulled her down onto the grass. Oof, that was mean. He chuckled. What can I say? I've gotten more cynical and sarcastic over the past 8 months. Loneliness does that to a person. They rested on the grass for several minutes, enjoying the rest and the tranquil weather. So, what do we do now? I don't know. I sorta gave up on life when I jumped off that bridge, so now I honestly couldn't care less. What about you? Well, Ochako turned to him with a smile that could rival the sun. I'm going to UA to become a hero. The entrance exam is within 2 months, so I'm going to do that. Then, I'll save you. Izuku turned towards her, bewildered. Look, I appreciate the sentiment, but the best option is for you to move on. I'll be fine. I can just take stuff like food and the world will continue. Not very hero-like, but as everyone said, I wouldn't make it as a hero anyways. No, I refused to let that happen. She got up with a start, staring at the green boy beside her. Those people were fools, your extensive knowledge could have been so helpful, and then when you were, exposed earlier. Naked. Stop talking, you obviously been working out, right? That initiated a blush from Izuku. I had a lot of time, I thought I could train and control it, but it didn't work. But then you do want to be alive, don't you? Quote dot dot dot. No comment. She watched the boy roll over on his side, facing away from her. She couldn't blame him for how he feel, but she could tell. He wanted to live, but hasn't found a reason to live. Especially with those terrible people from his childhood. You don't want to be saved. Fine, so be it, but I won't sit by and watch. Besides, you can be a hero, Deku. He peeled over his shoulder at the mention of his old nickname. Deku. Oh, Deku reminds me of, you can do it, so use that name when you become a hero. Change that name into someone that inspires others. Bah dump. Nope. Get rid of that right now. None of that. I'm nowhere close to deserving that feeling. She doesn't deserve a selfish person like me, but Deku. Huh. Izuku sat and watched the bubbly girl continue to ramble on about all the ways he was useful. It felt nice, but he didn't plan on being a burden to her for much longer. Once he figures out this barrier, he'll even let her continue her life to heroism. It'll be nice to watch in the background though, away from the action. Geez, you really are an idiot. Deku, that's not nice. I'm not wrong though, you're stupid for meddling in people's business. But, he looked over at her, a genuine smile plastered on his face. His hair shook with the breeze as Ochako awaited his response. That stubbornness already makes you a true hero in my book. Ochako felt a stir in her heart, a twinge in her nerves. I didn't know a smile could cause this much dopamine. Well, the sun is setting, we should get going. She stood up, a little too quickly, and nearly fell back over if it wasn't for Izuku grabbing her shoulder in the nick of time. Both, realizing how close they are, stepped away from each other. I haven't known him long, but he seems so cool, how could anyone hate him? See, quick reflexes. You're meant to be a hero. Shut up, idiot. Ah, come on, it's true. Anyways, where do you stay? Normally on a park bench during the summer. Earlier this year during the colder period I slept in hotels. Not like they knew I was there. I can't let you do that. I'll be fine, calm down. Nope, you're staying at my house. No, I'm not, Izuku said, walking away, and there's nothing you can do to make me. He felt his body being jolted back, with Uraraka staring at him with an evil smile. Crap, haha, you wouldn't. Don't worry, there's enough room inside my house, let's go. Uraraka, don't you dare. She had already started dashing towards her house, with Izuku trailing behind as to not get tossed about every time. Sorry Deku, but this time, I'll always remember you. Until others will remember you too. Ochako loved stories, ever since her parents read to her as a child. Fantasy, medieval, romance, you name it, and although superhero comics weren't as popular as before, maybe she could be a hero in small ways. Maybe she could give Izuku the happy ending he deserved. And there we go, my first one shot. I'm actually thinking of making this a whole book, but I'll see what the people think. I thought the concept from Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai would work great in MHA. Anyways, stay tuned and comment your thoughts. Hey, I'm from the future, just to say this is now a published book. If you like anything that I write, please check it out. Peace. Where stories live, discover now.